Thank you very much, Daniel. If I could light one candle today, I would light a candle for our Reverend Katie Colbert, who was supposed to be our guest minister for Easter this morning. Reverend Katie is a hospital chaplain serving at Tampa General on the front lines during this crisis. And I hope you'll join me in sending a little bit of love her way. Some weeks ago, when I knew what day of the week it was, when we were all stocking up at the grocery stores and schools had just begun to close, I pulled into the parking lot of Whole Foods. I'd never seen it so busy. Abandoned shopping carts littered the lot, and more arrived every moment as people loaded massive amounts of supplies into their vehicles and drove away to make space for the next influx of cars. It was so busy and chaotic, carts and cars and people, that I had to park way in the back and weave my way through the bustle to the store. Nobody was panicked, but you could tell that there was a different feeling in the air. It was not a normal day at the market. We were all on a mission, our own solitary missions, but we'd clearly all gotten the same memo. That's what made her stand out to me. One shopper among dozens heading to her car. Around her, people were wheeling carts piled with canned foods and bulk rice and paper products. I couldn't help but stare. There was a woman like something out of a magazine, her arm daintily wrapped around a single brown paper grocery sack. And it was stuffed edge to edge completely with tulips. With a storm like we've never experienced looming over the horizon amidst everyone else's grim-faced doomsday preparations, a woman went to the store and bought flowers. I have thought about her every day since. Maybe now she wishes she'd bought toilet paper or potatoes or chocolate. Maybe she delivered flowers to every one of her neighbors. Maybe she arranged those tulips on an altar, lit a candle, and prayed for the world to find spring. At times, as this national nightmare has deepened, I wonder if she was even real, or just an omen or an angel, or a sign for me alone to witness. When everyone was stockpiling canned goods, she was gathering flowers. I imagine this is not the Easter you were expecting or envisioning a few months ago. We as humans rely on expectations. We love routine and habit. We relax in situations where we know what to expect, and it happens. The kids get on the bus. The store has all of the products we like to buy. The work is hard but predictable. The beloved news anchor's face appears at the end of the day. Bedtime rituals are observed, and day by day we build a life. Change is exhausting, stressful to our minds and our bodies. Anyone who has started a new job, moved their household, had to master new technology, or just cope with daylight savings time knows this. For me, I was picturing Easter with egg hunts on the churchyard, songs from our musicians in bright floral prints, baked goods and coffee in Minister's Hall. I was picturing the celebration of hope rewarded and triumphant. In our reading earlier, Reverend Walsh said of a blizzard-struck Easter in 1982, The storm evokes the spiritual quality of Good Friday more than Easter. Emotionally, right now, this feels like winter more than like spring, like death more than rebirth, like despair more than like hope. Worse than that, we don't know when this will end. People are calling this the new normal, because for now, this anxious wait, this self-isolating time at home is the only world we know. Our brains have already reset expectations, and now some part of me, and maybe some part of you, some illogical, primitive, emotional part, is prepared for this new normal to never end. This week is Passover, the Jewish holiday commemorating the tribe's escape from slavery in Egypt. It isn't hard to imagine the feeling of the Israelites during the first Passover, shuttered in their homes, sharing meals with family as they wait for a succession of plagues to pass them by. Put yourself for a moment into their shoes. As the river ran with blood, as wild animals ran free in the streets, as livestock died of pestilence, and hail and fire and locusts rained down from the heavens, destroying every green and living thing, they could only wait it out in their homes. They had to wait it out, protected by lamb's blood around the doors and by faith in their God's promise of protection. I have to wonder, though, if there weren't those among them that were scared as the sun disappeared from the sky and an unnatural darkness descended, whose resolve shook as the stroke of midnight delivered the instant death of every firstborn Egyptian. How long were the Israelites in their homes, the simple rudimentary shelter of slaves, while all this chaos and destruction went on just outside? How long was that? And how long, I wonder, did that feel? I have so many questions. Whose were the voices of reassurance to scared children? How did the community remain united while waiting out these 10 plagues in a time before teleconferencing? How did they envision the future when their day-to-day had become so bleak? The promised land must have felt impossibly far away. Now it is Easter Sunday. I've been thinking a lot about what the first Easter must have felt like too. I think about the crowds of people who used to follow Jesus of Nazareth around hoping for wisdom or miracles, who suddenly had no leader to guide their next steps. I think about the apostles, that brotherhood of ordinary men who were forced to split apart, who drew straws for which direction they'd head by themselves to preach the messages of the man they'd loved and followed together. Even Jesus, resurrected after death, I think must have felt a pang at leaving behind everything he'd ever known. Sure, he'd conquered death and his friends got to see him once again, but I wonder if any of them were ready for how quickly and how completely their lives changed. It is so bittersweet. We celebrate Easter and Passover with the comfortable knowledge of how these original stories ended. The Israelites were spared the horrors of the plagues and saw their days of slavery in Egypt end. Every last man, woman, and child crossed safely between the walls of the Red Sea to freedom. That small group of followers of Jesus endured persecution and impossible odds to help found one of the major religions of the world. They didn't know it at the time. We never know it at the time. But hard times do end. For modern pagans, many of our ideas of how the world operates are cyclical. As someone who believes in reincarnation, I view life as a circle and not a line segment. Every end is another beginning. Our calendar of holidays that mark the march of the seasons is viewed as a circle, the wheel of the year. In the wisdom of the divinatory tarot card decks, there is another image of a wheel, the wheel of fortune. The idea of it is simple. The wheel keeps turning, sometimes painfully on top of us, it seems. But the image reminds pagans that change is constant and unavoidable. Both a blessing and a curse, that phrase, this too shall pass. The wheel of fortune advises us when times are difficult to hang on and to wait, as nothing is forever. The harsh winters we face do eventually give way to the light, life, and sweet promise of spring, just as the sun rises reliably at the end of each and every night. As a community of Unitarian Universalists, this is the time of all times to invite some hope into our hearts. One definition of hope is the grounds for believing that something good may happen. This isn't blind positivity. It isn't ignoring the global scale of suffering. By hope, I don't mean to negate the very real sense of anxiety you may be feeling, the heavy emotions, the grief that come naturally at a time of such struggle. I only ask that you crack the door a little bit to the possibility something good may come out of all this bad. Maybe you've seen it already in the response of humanity to a common enemy and the way we are learning to band together, even at a distance, to weather these days as one global community. I believe something beautiful will grow out of this barren time. Maybe someday in the future, our descendants will gather around tables and celebrate this story of struggle, knowing how it ended. There is an archaic definition of hope in my dictionary, and it reads, a feeling of trust. Hope as a feeling of trust. If hope is a feeling of trust, doesn't that make it a cousin to the word faith? Faith is a complete trust without proof. Hope in practice often strengthens faith. We start with hope that something good may happen. And we are acknowledging that we are dealing with a lot that isn't good right now. We don't know when or how this time of quarantine will end, but we know logically that it will. As sure as the sun rises and spring arrives, we will exit our homes and seek out community once again. We will open the doors at 1stUUPB and we will brew coffee and hug and host egg hunts and movie nights and potlucks once again. I have faith in that. And in the meantime, in this surreal and difficult meantime, I am keeping my heart wide open to let in every emotion as it comes, including hope. I do believe that something good may happen out of all this bad. I believe in a lot of something good because I believe that people are good. full of unimaginable goodness, just seeking an outlet. And in a time like this, we can shine the light for each other. We can dream communally in this strange time of change and upheaval of the better world we're going to build, of the promised land we'll journey to find, of the something good that we'll have our own hand in bringing to pass. This is an opportunity to examine and mindfully edit our lives and ourselves, to strengthen our bonds with humanity, to speak up in the cause of justice, and through our actions in this time of crisis, demonstrate the very principles we hold dear as you use. I think that woman at the store, the woman with the armful of tulips, knew that this is not just a matter of bodily survival. In our hardest days, we are called to also tend to our spiritual selves, our whole selves, and that of those around us. We must make the effort to find, to create, to share beauty, even in the midst of our troubles. We bring hope to others and to ourselves when we take the chance and spend the time to ensure for someone that something good will happen today. We can be messengers of hope through our actions, individually and as a community, amidst all this uncertainty. This time will pass. We as a community will weather it together. And when the proverbial spring comes, when COVID-19 passes, may we use what we've learned to bring more healing, renewal, love, and justice like so many precious and beautiful flowers to the world around us. May you be well. May you be safe. May you know the warmth of the community that surrounds you even still. You are loved. And you are not alone. We are all in this together. Blessed, blessed be.